When people think about divorce, they usually focus on who gets the house, who gets the bank accounts, and who pays alimony or child support. But one of the most overlooked and sometimes most dangerous parts of a divorce is debt. I'm Matt Dolan with Dolan Divorce Lawyers in Connecticut, and today I want to talk about how debt is divided in a Connecticut divorce, what the court actually looks at, and some common mistakes I see people make that end up costing them long after the divorce is over. First, it's important to understand the framework Connecticut courts use. Connecticut is what's called an equitable distribution state. That does not mean everything is split 50-50. Instead, judges look at what is fair under the circumstances and divide assets accordingly. And just like assets, debts are also subject to equitable distribution. Now, generally speaking, the court is focused on debts that were incurred during the marriage. That can include things like credit card balances, car loans, mortgages, personal loans, medical debt, and even tax debt. Even if a debt is only in one spouse's name, that does not automatically mean it stays with that spouse. If the debt was incurred for marital purposes, such as household expenses, family travel, or shared living costs, the court will likely have each party responsible for a portion of the debt, even if only one spouse technically owes the creditor. Now, debt that existed before the marriage often remains the sole responsibility of the party who incurred the debt, particularly in short-term marriages. However, even with premarital debt, the court does have the authority to have both parties responsible for the repayment of a portion of that debt if it feels that doing so would be fair to the parties. Now, your divorce judgment can say your spouse is responsible for a certain debt, but that does not bind the credit card company, the bank, or the IRS. If your name is on the debt with the creditor, that creditor can still come after you if your ex doesn't pay. This is why it's critical not just to look at what the court orders, but how debts are actually handled and paid off as part of the divorce judgment. Judgments will usually require that a debt be paid in full at the time of divorce or after the sale of a major asset such as a house, or the court may order monthly payment towards the debt. If either party fails to make the payments on a debt, the other party may file a motion for contempt in family court to compel compliance with the court order. So how does the court decide who should take on which debts? Connecticut courts look at many of the same factors for debts as they do for assets. Those include the length of the marriage, each spouse's income and earning capacity, who incurred the debt and why, whether the debt benefited the marriage, and each party's overall financial situation after divorce. In some cases, one spouse may be assigned more debt because they are also receiving more assets or because they have a greater ability to pay. But not all debt is treated the same, especially when emotions and bad behavior are involved. If one spouse racks up debt for non-marital purposes like an affair, gambling, or excessive personal spending, that can absolutely affect how the court allocates responsibility. That kind of spending may be considered dissipation of marital assets. The court has the power to assign that debt primarily or entirely to the spouse who incurred it. So what should you be doing right now if you're facing a divorce and you're worried about debt? First, get a clear inventory of all debts, including balances, account holders, interest rates, monthly payments, and why the debt was accrued. Second, be cautious about taking on new debt during the divorce process. And third, don't assume debt will just work itself out. How debt is handled in your divorce can affect your credit and finances for years or even decades. If you're going through a divorce in Connecticut and have questions about how debt may be divided in your case, it's important to get advice specific to your situation. So as usual, if you have any additional questions or are seeking representation in a divorce or family law case here in Connecticut, I would invite you to contact our office. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.